Good evening, and welcome to something I haven't done in a while, Morrowind Monday. Morrowind used to be one of my, well, it still is one of my favorite computer games of all time, and, well, it used to be a big thing on this channel, and haven't really played it much this year. It doesn't help that my game library got corrupted, and now I have to reinstall everything, so I wasn't able to get Morrowind set up in time because of all the mods and stuff that I use with it, so instead of one more adventure in the Morrowind game itself for 2025, we're just going to do a ChatGPT text based adventure version of Morrowind. This is based on a text adventure game prompt that Brett came up with over the summer that he used to create a Star Wars adventure game in ChatGPT. But I've adapted his prompt and we're going to attempt to use it to do an adventure in the Morrowind world. I'm actually starting stream about an hour and a half later than I intended. I was playing around with different screen readers, trying to get one that worked satisfactorily with ChatGPT, but they kept glitching out, so looks like I'm gonna have to read everything myself. So I don't know, because we're starting an hour late, and because I have to do so much more extra talking. I don't know how long we're gonna go, but we'll see. We'll see if this adventure style works, and I'm sure you can adapt the prompt for other other game worlds if you want to do your own ChatGPT text adventures. So here's the prompt as I put it in. It's a modified version of Brett's original prompt for his Star Wars adventure game. And that was a three-player game, but tonight I'll just be exploring Morrowind as a single player. So I changed up the prompt quite a lot. So I'm going to read aloud what I typed. I would like to try playing a game with you. It's a storytelling game where you will be the storyteller. The game takes place in the world of the computer game Morrowind, Elder Scrolls 3, and can use any characters, locations, events, concepts, etc. from that game world. There will be one player character in the game controlled by me, and you'll control all other NPC characters. Tonight's adventure will be set during the Morrowind world's equivalent of the Christmas season. The game will work as follows. You will give an initial description of no more than 5 paragraphs of the starting location, which in this game is the Census and Excise Office in the small coastal village of Seyda. The player character has just been released by the prison transport boat from the beginning of the original game. After this initial description, you will take the player through the character creation process: name, gender, race, class, sign. After character creation, you will ask the player what they would like to do first. Use this response to create at least one, but no more than 3 paragraphs describing what happens as a result of the player's choices. After displaying this text, you will again ask the players what they would like to do. This sequence of describing results, then asking for new actions, should continue indefinitely or until the story reaches some sort of natural conclusion. Interesting and/or lore-accurate situations are preferred, with some occasional humor, action, or combat as well. The player character cannot be outright killed, although they may suffer injuries, diseases, and conditions from mild to severe, and are allowed to become incapacitated. If the player is incapacitated, the game must narrate them back to a usable state. Since this is a storytelling game, there is no score to keep track of, although you should remember the general condition of characters from scene to scene. As an example, if one of the characters should become injured, they should remain injured until they are able to heal any wounds or are assisted by another character. You can give players items, new abilities, or rewards if you choose, as the story moves along, if relevant to their progression and story choices. And then I did tell it to please generate an image of the scene for each story turn, but I'm about to tell it to cancel that request, and we're only going to generate images upon request, because this first image, it took over 2 minutes to generate, and we'll be wasting time if we're sitting for 2 minutes between each action. We just want to keep the story moving. So we'll ask it for pictures occasionally, but not every story turn. So this picture is called Holiday Cheer in the Seyda office. And this is actually a pretty... This looks like the Morrowind world, except with a Christmas tree and Christmas lights added. And one of the guys is wearing a Santa suit. Dunmer character over there is wearing a Santa suit. This is a nice picture. I like what ChatGPT did. We are going to do a few pictures. All right, I'm gonna request game rule change. Please do not generate an image with every story turn. Please only generate an image as requested by the player. Are you ready to begin the story? Oh no, it wants me to do feedback. Alright. I'll only generate images when you explicitly ask for one. That's good. I like the first one. It's got little emojis going on. Absolutely. Ready and very excited to dive into Morrowind with you. Got it on the rule change. I'll only generate images when you explicitly ask for one. When you're ready, say the word and I'll begin with the opening scene inside the Census and Excise office in Seyda just moments after your release from the prison ship. Holiday atmosphere and all. Let's begin. The wooden door of the Census and Excise office creaks shut behind you, sealing out the damp air of the bitter coast. Inside, the room smells of salt, ink, and old timber. Marshlight filters through small shuttered windows, casting pale reflections across rough-hewn beams and a long counter scarred by years of bored officials and impatient travelers. A ledger lies open on the desk before you, its pages thick with names. Most forgotten, some crossed out. It is the season of Hearth Turning, a rare imperial Dunmeri convergence of winter festivals. Someone, clearly not paid enough for this, has attempted to decorate the office. Sprigs of ash pine and hackalow leaf hang from nails in the walls, and a small guar hide lantern glows warmly with tinted glass in festive reds and greens. A paper star bearing the seal of the Empire droops slightly above the counter, held up by twine. Behind the desk stands Socucius Argala, an elderly imperial clerk with tired eyes and a thin smile. He wears his usual red-brown robe, though today is adorned with a ridiculous woolen cap stitched with the imperial dragon in white thread. He clears a throat, quill poised. Off to the side, a crate of belongings waits. Your belongings, still smelling faintly of the prison ship's hold. Ah, yes, Ergala says, voice dry but not unkind. Another release. And during the holidays, no less. Let's get this over with before the scribs freeze in their shells. He looks up at you expectantly. Let us begin with the basics of character creation: name, gender, and race. Once you answer these, we will proceed to class and birth sign. My character's name is... We'll keep the Uncle Eevee theme running. He can choose between Imperial, Dunmer, Nord, Breton, Argonian, Khajiit, Redguard, Bosmer, Altmer, and Orc. That's a good choice. All those choices are good. So the Imperials, the Bretons, the Nords, and the Red Guards are variants on human. The Dunmer, Bosmer, and Altmer are variants on elves. The Argonians and Khajiits and Orcs are the beast races. Khajiits are the cat people, Argonians are the lizard people, and Orcs are orcs. That is a hard choice. Dunmer are the native people of Morrowind. Um, you know, let's do a Khajiit. Let's do a cat person. Because, cats are always cool, so let's do a cat person. Excellent. The story begins. The creak the creak of the prison ship's gangplank still echoes faintly in your ears as you stand inside the Imperial Census and Excise Office, a squat wooden building perched above the brackish waters of the Bitter Coast. Damp air clings to the walls, carrying the scent of salt, marsh muck, and old parchment. A single slit window lets in gray afternoon light, tinted amber by drifting fog outside. Tonight, however, the office bears unusual signs of cheer. Evergreen bows, imported at great expense from the West, have been tied clumsily to the support beams. Wax candles burn in colored glass holders, and a small potted tree near the wall is decorated with kwama eggshells painted in bright reds and golds. Someone has attempted to carve a tiny imperial dragon for the top. It leans dangerously to one side. Behind the counter stands Celis Gravius, an imperial clerk with tired eyes and ink-stained fingers, flipping through ledgers while humming a half-remembered winter festival tune. A Red Guard dock worker warms himself near a brazier, while a Dunmer customs agent pretends not to enjoy the sweet roll he's clearly stolen from the holiday platter. Outside, you can hear gulls crying and the distant lap of water against pylons. Your chains are gone. Your name has been called. Whatever crimes or mistakes brought you here, they now belong to the past. The Empire has plans for you, whether you like it or not. We need to choose a class and a birth sign. What are all available classes and signs from the original game? Excellent choice of name and race. Uncle Eevee is already very at home in Morrowind. Before we proceed with class and birth sign selection, here are all the available classes and birth signs from the original Elder Scrolls III Morrowind, presented as they appear in-game. We may choose one of the pre-made classes or later do a custom class. So the combats, Battle Mage looks interesting. Wow. The Bard has good persuasion. I remember that from the original game. Okay, let's do... I kind of want to mix combat and magic. Battle Mage, maybe? Nightblade could be cool. Spell Sword. I think that's what I use most of the time when I play Morrowind is Spell Sword. You get the blade and the spells. Spell Sword. Alright, let's look at the things. The birth sign grants a permanent blessing or special power. Personality insurance for lady. Fire shield and a weakness. Oh, that's interesting. The steed for increased speed. Power. The ritual. Healing and turn undead. Alright. Spell sword with ritual. Let's do that. Okay. I choose spell sword, class, and my sign is the ritual. Or do I want the lady? The lady has personality and endurance. We'll go with ritual. You never know when you'll run into undead. Cold sea air creeps through the cracks of the wooden walls as the door to the Census and Excise office shuts behind you with a dull thud. The building smells of salt, old paper, and burning wick oil. A few festive touches have been awkwardly added for the season. A sprig of holly nailed above a ledger shelf, red garhide ribbons tied around the legs of a desk, and a small lantern glowing with pale blue magical light. An imperial attempt at holiday cheer in a Dunmer land. Outside you can hear gulls crying and waves slapping across the docks, steady and uncaring. Behind a scarred wooden counter sits Sokutia Sargala, an imperial clerk with tired eyes and a voice practiced in boredom. He flips through parchment stamped with the imperial seal, pausing only to glance up at you. Another release from the prison ship, another name to process. Nearby, a Dunmer woman in a guard's uniform warms her hands by a brazier, watching you with the faint suspicion common to Sedanine. Snow does not fall here, but the air feels sharp and winter heavy all the same. Sakoshius clears his throat. Ah, yes, you finally arrived. Let's get this over with. Please confirm or complete the following details. Name Uncle Eevee, gender male, race Khajiit, class spellsword, birth sign the ritual. If everything above is correct, Sokusius will finalize your papers. Once confirmed, I'll continue the story and ask what Uncle Eevee does first upon his release into Morrowind. The information is correct. Please complete the papers. Very well. The scratch of a quill echoes through the Census and Excise office as Celis Gravius finishes copying the final lines of your release documents. Outside, the soughing of winter waves against Sedanine stilts carries faintly through the shuttered windows, along with the muffled sound of villagers preparing for Hearthtide. A local Imperial Dunmeri winter festival marked by lanterns, spiced sujama, and offerings to both the Tribunal and the Nine. A sprig of frosted marshmallow hangs awkwardly over a ledger shelf, clearly someone's attempt at seasonal cheer. Gravius blots the parchment, clears his throat, and slides the papers across the desk toward you. Uncle Eevee, male Khajiit, spell sword, born under the ritual. He pauses, glancing at you over his spectacles. No objections from the Emperor's office. That makes you a free cat as of this moment. He presses the final seal with a dull thunk and stands aside, gesturing towards the office door. Take your papers to the exit clerk when you're ready, and try not to make trouble. Sedanine has enough of that, holiday or no. As you gather your belongings, you feel the faint, unsettling warmth of the ritual within you. Restorative magic ready to be called upon, but demanding care lest it drain you in turn. Somewhere outside, a guar bell jingles cheerfully, and the smell of roasting scrib jerky drifts in from the square. Your new life in Morrowind begins now. How much... What do I currently have in my inventory? How much gold. Is there a trade house or shop in town? I'm just trying to get a feel for my stats here. I'm just a feel for my stats. Uh, Very well. The papers are stamped, signed, and slid back across the desk with bureaucratic finality. Uncle Evie is now officially not a prisoner, at least as far as the Empire is concerned. My current inventory, you begin your new life in Vardenfell with very little to your name. Common shirt, common pants, common shoes. That's it. No weapons, no armor, no trinkets tucked away for luck. Gold, 0 drakes. Fresh off the prison ship, the Empire has seen fit to release you, but not to fund you. Abilities and powers for clarity. As a spell sword, you have training in both arms and arcane arts, favoring light armor, blades, and magic used in close quarters. Under the ritual birth sign, you possess 2 once per day powers. Mare's Gift, a powerful self-healing ability, and Blessed Word, damages undead and may drive them away. These are latent blessings, nothing to equip, but very real when invoked. Satanine Commerce. Yes, there is a place to trade in town. Ariel's Trade House. The main shop and tavern in Satanine, run by Ariel, an Imperial with a keen eye for profit. You can buy and sell goods, hear rumors, and potentially find work or trouble. You are currently still inside the Census and Excise office with the door to Satanine just a few steps away. Outside waits the salty air, Silt Strider cries in the distance, and a village that barely notices one more Khajiit stepping into history. I want to go to Ariel's Trade House. Very well. The quill scratches, the papers are stamped, and Uncle Evie is officially entered into the Empire's ledgers. Celis Garavius gives you a brief, unreadable look, then waves you onward with the bored authority of a man who has processed too many prisoners to care. You are free to go. Um, and he gave me some stuff. This inventory is different than the inventory we just asked about. You check the small bundle of possessions returned to you. 87 drakes of gold, an iron longsword, iron shield, light armor suitable, cuirass and greaves, common shirt, pants, and shoes. We cannot wear boots or full helmets, a fact the Empire never bothers to explain. We have a small amount of basic provisions, and our known spells are Hearth Heal, Fire Bite, and Minor Life Detection. Everything is serviceable if uninspiring, typical Imperial generosity. Yes, Satanine does have a trade house. Just down the road from the census office is Ariel's Trade House, a low wooden building with warm lantern light spilling from its window. It serves as a general store with weapons, armor, supplies, ingredients, a place to sell loot, and a small social hub for locals and drifters. It's run by Ariel, a Breton merchant known for being shrewd but not cruel, by Vardenfell standards at least. You head to Ariel's Trade House. The salty night air brushes your fur as you step outside and follow the plank walkway past leaning still houses and softly glowing marsh lanterns. Holiday garlands, woven from evergreen fronds and paper lanterns painted with tribunal symbols, hang between posts, fluttering in the coastal breeze. Somewhere, a drunk dock worker hums an off-key carol about Saint Nerevar that makes no theological sense whatsoever. Inside Ariel's trade house, warmth greets you immediately. The hearth crackles, casting amber light across shelves of goods and a few mismatched tables. A Nord patron laughs too loudly over Sujama, while a Dunmer woman warms her hands by the fire. Behind the counter stands Ariel, adjusting his spectacles as his eyes settle on you. Curious, calculating, but not unfriendly. Welcome, friend, he says. New to Satanine, I'd wager. Have a look around. Holiday or not, business never sleeps. Um, Uncle Eevee performs a silly dance in attempt to spread some holiday cheer. Ariel's trade house is warm and smoky with the smell of salt rice, brandy, and drying leather. As Uncle Eevee breaks into an exuberant, tail swaying Khajiit dance, paws clapping, hips twisting, a surprisingly graceful hop step, the room goes quiet for half a heartbeat. Then Ariel himself lets out a bark of laughter, nearly spilling his drink. By the 9 and the 3, he says, grinning, that's a new one. A pair of dock workers chuckle into their mugs, and a tired Imperial Guard actually manages a smile. Someone jingles a few chimes tied to a sprig of holly nailed near the bar, Sadanine's modest nod to the season, adding a festive clatter to the performance. Um, when the dance ends, Ariel applauds with genuine appreciation. Holiday spirit, eh? We could use more of that around here. He slides a small cup of Flynn your way on the counter, on the house, and lowers his voice conspiratorially. Careful, though. Spread cheer too hard in some towns, and folk will think you're trying to sell them something. Still, the mood in the room has lightened. The dock workers seem more relaxed, and one gives Uncle Eevee an approving nod. For reference, Uncle Eevee currently carries the standard release kit, a simple iron dagger, a rough sponge shirt and pants, basic shoes, and about 87 drakes in gold. Ariel's trade house doubles as Sadanine's main shop. You can buy, sell, barter, or ask about local rumors and work here. I'm going to say equip whatever my Uncle Eevee equips his currently best equipment in preparation for exploring. Uncle Eevee's dance draws a few surprised looks and at least one reluctant smile. Ariel chuckles from behind the counter, flicking his eyes towards a small sprig of holly nailed crookedly to a beam. Well, he says dryly, that's one way to keep the spirits warm. Haven't seen a Khajiit dance like that since a Saturnalia in Balmora. A pair of villagers nursing Flynn nearby give a half-hearted clap, and for a moment the trade house feels less like a musty shack and more like a holiday gathering at the edge of the Empire. Once the cheer settles, Uncle Eevee takes stock and equips the best of what he has. He fastens a simple iron longsword at his hip, its balance serviceable if uninspired, and straps on a small iron shield with scuffs from previous owners. A basic cuirass and sturdy boots, more practical than stylish, are adjusted to fit his lithe Khajiit frame, and he checks the weight of his travel pack, a few basic potions, simple clothing, and a modest purse of starting gold. Nothing impressive, but enough to survive a first foray beyond the lighthouse. Ariel watches the preparations with a merchant's practiced eye. Heading out already, he asks? Roads are quiet tonight, but the swamps don't care about holidays. If you're buying or selling, now's the time. Otherwise, best decide where those boots are taking you. What would... It's telling me I have to upgrade. What does that entail? Oh, it just means it won't let me do any more images tonight. Shoot. Okay. Let's do it. Blanking out my screen for a bit because using money creates sensitive information. Alright, so it says it sent me a code on my phone. 768056. Alright. Where do I enter that? Please excuse me a moment. I do want to have access to pictures. Alright, theoretically I should be upgraded now. Please generate an image of Uncle Eevee ready for adventure. And while it's doing that, I will bring the game back online now. So let's wait for this picture, and then I have an idea. I want to go for a big, long swim. Because I'm crazy. We're just in a tiny little coastal village. We haven't even started yet. And already we're seeing some nice references going on here. So seeing how long it's taking to do the images, we're not going to do this every time. Hey. Alright, let's wait for the picture and then we'll go. Start this adventure proper. So here was the first picture. So you can see they do good pictures. This is very detailed in its accounting of the players. I'm really liking the way this game is turning out. It is hurting my voice. It is hurting my a little bit to have to read everything myself. I think next time I do one of these text adventures, I'm going to have to get the screen reader actually working, but it's too late for tonight, so we're just gonna do silly things and go off the deep end for a little bit, I think. Alright, so the image has a name. It's still generating. While it generates the image, let's go on with the next story turn. And then we'll come back and look at the image. Uncle Eevee exits the trade house, jumps in the water behind the Satanine lighthouse, and begins swimming toward Vivek City in the distance. So we're going to go for a little swim to the big city. Alright, looks like it's still doing the image. Uncle Eevee steps out into the salt-scented night air of Satanine, lantern light glinting off wet planks and holiday garlands strung between posts. Without hesitation, he pads past the lighthouse, scrambles down the rocks, and splashes into the dark waters of the inner sea. The chill bites immediately through fur and cloth, but the moon's Master and Secunda hang bright above, reflecting a shimmering path toward distant Vivek, its cantons little more than shadowy silhouettes on the horizon. As he swims, the sea grows restless. Waves lift and drop him in slow, exhausting rhythm, and the water tastes of salt and silt. A shadow darts beneath him, then another. Slaughterfish. One snaps close enough to rake his calf, drawing blood and a sharp hiss of pain, but Uncle Eevee kicks hard and mutters a hurried spell, the magic pushing him forward just enough to escape the worst of it. The fish scatter, though the wound burns and his muscles begin to tremble with fatigue. After what feels like an eternity, common sense and aching limbs prevail. Uncle Eevee drifts toward the low, barnacle-crusted outcrop where he can haul himself up, coughing seawater and shivering violently. He is alive, but soaked, lightly injured, and far from either Satanine or Vivek. The distant city still looms, patient and impossibly far away, while the lighthouse beam sweeps across the water behind him like a silent warning. And it did load the picture. It did finally load the picture, so here it is. Please generate an image of Uncle Eevee's swim attempt. We're going to do one more picture. So yeah, that's a very nice looking picture there. Cat warrior person. I like it. You can also see a festive star in the background there. This is just before setting out from the trade house. Excuse me. All right. Uncle Eevee prays to Azora for assistance. It's going to keep working on the image while we're stranded on a little island right now. As Uncle Eevee splashes into the cold green waters behind the Satanine lighthouse, the reality of his decision sets in quickly. The inner sea is vast, and Vivek City is little more than a pale geometric smudge on the horizon. Sluggish waves slap against his armor, tugging at leather straps and pulling his tail beneath the surface. The holiday lanterns of Satanine fade behind him, their warm glow replaced by the creak of distant marsh reeds and the low cry of seabirds settling in for the night. Feeling his strength ebb faster than expected, Uncle Eevee treads water and lifts his muzzle to the ash-gray sky, whispering a prayer to Azora, Queen of Dawn and Dusk. For a moment, there is only the sound of water and wind. Then the sea grows strangely calm. Moonlight breaks through the clouds, casting a violet sheen across the waves, and a soft feminine voice curls through his thoughts. Not words exactly, but reassurance. A gentle warmth spreads through his limbs. The blessing does not grant him the power to swim all the way to Vivec. Azora is subtle, not indulgent, but it steadies his body and sharpens his will. Fatigue slows, panic recedes, and Uncle Eevee realizes he can safely reach shore again if he chooses wisely. Nearby, half hidden by reeds, lies a small stretch of coast leading toward the bitter coast swamps. Farther out, something dark moves beneath the water, slow and massive. Current condition: mildly fatigued, temporarily calmed, and focused by Azora's favor. Notable effect: a brief sense of guidance. Danger is ahead, but not unavoidable. What would Uncle Eevee like to do next? Okay, here's a picture of him swimming. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on right now. My phone buzzed, but it's not important right now. Uncle Eevee approaches the coast, climbs out of the water, and starts jogging on land towards Vivec City. Cold water finally gives way to sucking marsh mud as Uncle Eevee's paws scrape the shallows. He hauls himself onto the coast east of Satanine, fur plastered flat, armor dripping, tail heavy as a soaked rope. The smell of salt and swamp mingles with the distant fungal musk of Vardenfell. Behind him, the lighthouse is now little more than a pale spike against the horizon. Ahead, far across the Ascadian Isles, the cantons of Vivec City rise like stacked stone prayers, still impossibly distant. Azora's name lingers on the air, perhaps imagined, perhaps not, and a faint warmth steadies his breathing as exhaustion ebbs enough to move again. Jogging inland, Uncle Eevee follows a half-forgotten path used by pilgrims and smugglers alike. Scribs scatter at his approach, and a pair of Nyx hounds howl somewhere far off, though none give chase. Holiday ribbons, simple strips of dyed netch leather tied by locals, flutter from a roadside shrine to the three, a seasonal custom meant to ward off bad luck during the year's darkest days. The jog is slower than he'd like, soaked boots chafe, and his magicka feels sluggish after the swim, but his Khajiit endurance carries him forward. After some time, the land opens into gentler green hills. A fork in the road appears, one path curves south towards Pelagiad and the safety of inns and traders, while the other continues east, longer and more dangerous, but more direct toward Vivec. A small stone marker nearby bears fresh wax drippings. Someone recently left an offering, perhaps asking the same question Uncle Eevee now faces. What to do next? Keep trekking towards Vivec City. Okay, Uncle Eevee continues his hike forward towards Vivek City. Cold seawater streams from Uncle Eevee's fur as he hauls himself onto the muddy coast, paws sinking slightly into the ash-dark silt of Varnfell. The wind here smells of salt and sulphur, and the distant cantons of Vivek City loom on the horizon like stacked stone prayers still many leagues away. His jog quickly becomes a steady Khajiit lope, tail swaying for balance, as scribs skitter from his path and a low drone of swamp insects hum around him. The land is flat but treacherous, broken by pools of brackish water and reeds that conceal more than mud crabs. As he presses on, the holiday season makes itself known in small strange ways. A guar herder trudges past with a garland of dried marsh flowers looped around his beast's horns. A waste shrine of the tribunal has been decorated with flickering lanterns and ribbons and temple colors, someone having scrawled "Joy to the Three" in charcoal on the stone. Uncle Eevee feels a lingering chill in his muscles from the swim, but also a faint warmth, whether from exertion, faith, or Azora's distant attention. It's hard to say. After some time, the road forks. One path follows the coastline towards La Ode, safer and more traveled, while the inland route cuts straight toward Vivek through marsh and ashland. Faster, but known for Nyx hounds, bandits, and worse. Night is beginning to creep in, the sky staining violet and gold as Masser and Secunda prepare to rise. Uncle Eevee attempts to find a local cave for shelter. Cold water finally gives way to sucking marsh mud as Uncle Eevee hauls himself onto the bitter coast. His fur is plastered flat, his armor clinks with trapped seawater, and the air smells of salt, rot, and distant wood smoke. Jogging inland proves wiser than swimming. Vivek's cantons loom impossibly far away across the inner sea, but night is creeping in and the holiday season has brought an early chill. Strange lanterns glow here and there along the coast. Bug lamps hung with bits of tinsel and netting, offerings left for spirits, both kind and cruel. After some searching, Uncle Eevee spots a low cave mouth half hidden by twisted mangrove roots and luminous moss. Icicles of mineral dripstone hang from the ceiling like crude decorations, and someone, perhaps smugglers, perhaps pilgrims, has arranged a few candles and a sprig of holly-like marsh plant near the entrance. The cave smells damp, but safe enough, and the ground inside is mercifully dry. From deeper within comes only the slow drip of water and the faint skitter of something small that decides wisely to keep its distance. As Uncle Eevee steps inside, the fatigue of the swim settles into his limbs. Yet there's a curious calm here. For a moment, he could swear the cave shadows take on a soft violet hue, and the water dripping from the ceiling briefly reflects starlight that isn't there. Perhaps Azora acknowledging his earlier prayer, or perhaps just exhaustion playing tricks on Khajiit's eyes. Either way, this place will serve as shelter for the night if he chooses to claim it. Uncle Eevee decides to rest for the night. And actually, Khajiit in the game, they talk about themselves in third person. So by doing our descriptors this way, we're actually even more in character than most characters that would be playing this. Uncle Eevee decides to rest for the night inside the cave. After first looking around to see if there is anything valuable he can take. So that's actually two actions in one we just put. It keeps repeating this first couple paragraphs. Searching the nearby hills, Uncle Eevee finds a small coastal cave. Damp stone, rotting kelp, mercifully dry. Quick, cautious look around reveals the cave isn't occupied. No smugglers, no bandits, no angry Nick hounds. Just the distant drip of water and the soft glow of bioluminescent moss clinging to the walls. While checking the cave more thoroughly, Uncle Eevee's sharp Khajiit eyes spot a few modest treasures: a handful of loose coins scattered near an old bedroll, a partially used restore fatigue potion, and a cheap iron dagger with a nicked blade. Nothing fancy but serviceable. Satisfied, he settles down for the night. As he rests, the fatigue of swimming and travel slowly fades, and the cave silence wraps around him like a heavy blanket. Outside, waves crash softly, and somewhere far off, a Siltstrider bell echoes like a lullaby. Uncle Eevee awakens rested but still damp, ready to continue his journey. Uncle, please generate an image of Uncle Eevee resting in the cave while counting his gold. And meanwhile, while the image is generating, Uncle Eevee eats a small breakfast, exits the cave, and continues his hike towards Vivek City. Dawn breaks over the Ascanian Isles in a wash of pale pink and gold, the fog lifting slowly from the marshes. Uncle Eevee emerges from the cave stiff but rested, the smell of damp stone and old guar droppings giving way to fresh air tinged with salt and wet earth. His simple breakfast does little to fill Khajiit's appetite, but it steadies him, and the long road, well, path toward Vivek City calls once more. The land here is alive in that quiet Morrowind way. Siltstriders groan in the far distance, insects buzz lazily, and the towering mushroom trees loom like watchful giants. As Uncle Eevee jogs onward, he spots the stone markers of an old pilgrimage route, half sunk into the soil, their inscriptions worn by centuries of ash and rain. Somewhere ahead lie the cantons of Vivek, rising impossibly from the water like a holy mirage, still distant but closer than before. As the morning wears on, the path begins to fork. One route follows the coastline, safer but longer. The other cuts inland through denser wetlands where bandits, creatures, or worse might lurk. Uncle Eevee feels the pull of fate and perhaps Azora's lingering attention as he slows to consider his next move. Uncle Eevee continues along the coastal path towards Vivek City. Using my cheat utilities in Morrowind, I actually used to swim from Satanine to Vivek City in the actual game. So this story is bringing back some memories for a little bit. It's still doing the image. And we don't have an image yet. Alright. The morning breaks pale and pearly over the inner sea as Uncle Eevee pads back onto the coastal path. The air smells of salt and wet stone and holiday lanterns. Simple paper globes enchanted with soft mage light hang from driftwood poles placed by pilgrims traveling toward Vivek for the season's rites. Ahead, the path curves along low bluffs where waves slap rhythmically below, and the distant cantons of Vivek City rise from the water like stacked stone prayers, still far but unmistakable now. As you continue, you pass signs of life. A pair of temple pilgrims wrapped in woolen shawls humming a seasonal canticle to the three, scribs burrowing near the path's edge, and the scorched remnants of a small campfire where someone recently warmed guar jerky and sujama. Um, Farther on, the ground shows heavy tracks, too large for Qualma and too fresh to ignore, leading inland towards a stand of twisted mangroves and a rocky outcrop riddled with shadowy hollows. A cool breeze tugs at your cloak, and the ritual's quiet hum settles your thoughts, as if reminding you that dawn favors preparation. You stand at a fork where the coastal road continues safely toward Vivek, while a narrower trail leads inland toward those tracks in possible shelter or danger. Uncle Eevee continues to hike the coastal path towards Vivek. There's two things I want to do in Vivek, and then somewhere else I want to go after that. We'll see where this adventure takes us. We're at the 1 hour mark of stream now. It says we have an image. There it is. So this is when we were resting in the cave counting our gold. So you can see if you click on an image, it shows you all the images it generated so far. That's a cool feature. I'm liking this. The ash-gray dawn breaks over the inner sea as Uncle Eevee pads along the coastal road, boots crunching softly on salt-crusted stone. The air smells of brine and wet marsh and small holiday charms, woven reeds tied with red guar hide strips, hang from the occasional signpost, offerings left by locals to appease spirits during the season of long sun's turning. To the east, Vivek City finally feels closer now. The distant cantons loom larger through the mist, their silhouettes rising like step pyramids from the water. Cliff racers cry overhead but keep their distance, perhaps unsettled by the cold morning wind. As the path bends inland briefly, Uncle Eevee passes a pair of Dunmer pilgrims wrapped in thick cloaks, warming their hands over a small brazier etched with tribunal symbols and bits of moon sugar crystal. An indulgence, but it is the season. They nod politely but say nothing. Farther on, the road forks. One branch hugs the coast towards Vivek's 4 1/4 docks, while another climbs towards the Ascadian Isles. Greener but more dangerous this time of year, with blighted creatures wandering farther than usual. Uncle Eevee feels a pleasant ache of travel in his legs, tired but capable, and his pack still has room should fortune favor him. Uncle Eevee follows the path approaching the 4 1/4. And I'm going to Google something real quick. Where is Joe Basha's bookshop? I need to see which quarter I need to go to, because I want to pay Joe Basha a visit. It's one of my favorite places in Vivek City. 4 1/4 Vivek City, Lower Wasteworks. All right. The long coastal road finally gives way to stone and water. As Uncle Eevee crests a low rise, the 4 1/4 of Vivek City looms ahead, an enormous canton of pale stone rising straight out of the inner sea like a patient, disapproving god. Gondolas drift lazily between cantons, their lanterns glowing with soft reds and greens tied to the season. A banner depicting the tribunal hangs from a bridge, someone having cheekily added garlands and a sprig of holly to Vivek's stern likeness. The air smells of salt, incense, and spiced kwama cakes. As you draw closer, traffic thickens. Outlanders of every stripe pass by. A Breton merchant arguing with a dock porter, a pair of ordinators ignoring the festivities entirely, and a Dunmer child chasing a scrib-shaped toy that squeaks when squeezed. Your boots thud against the 4 1/4's massive doors, where guards half-heartedly inspect newcomers before waving them inside. Warmth spills out, voices, music, and the comforting chaos of too many cultures sharing too little space. Inside, the canton hums with life. The plaza is busy with traders calling out seasonal deals, pilgrims lighting candles for the New Life Festival, and taverns already echoing with laughter despite the early hour. Somewhere above, lie the guild halls and rented rooms, shelter, opportunity, and trouble in equal measure. Sneakily knock Uncle Eevee cast a stun spell to knock out an ordinator, steals their armor, and runs toward the lower wasteworks. Let's see how it handles that. It may say I'm not strong enough for that. As Uncle Eevee pads along the stone causeways toward the foreign quarter, the cantons of Vivec loom overhead like stacked ziggurats, their lanterns glowing with warm holiday lights and tribunal banners trimmed in red and gold cloth. An ordinator stands in watch near a ramp, motionless as a statue, his golden mask reflecting the water below. When Eevee whispers the words of his spell, the air cracks with magicka, Azora's favor and his spell sword training aligning just right. The ordinator stiffens, armor ringing once as he topples sideways in a very undignified clatter, stunned but alive. Moving fast, Eevee wrests free the heavy ordinator cuirass and helm, the metal still warm from its former owner. The armor is exquisitely made and unmistakable. As Eevee bolts down toward the lower wasteworks, alarms begin to sound above. Sharp whistles echo between the cantons, and distant voices bark orders. The stolen armor weighs on his shoulders, slowing him slightly, and the stunned ordinator will not be out for long. By the time Uncle Eevee reaches the shadowed corridors of the lower wasteworks, he is winded, but still on his feet. He has gained ordinator armor, stolen, ill-fitting, powerful protection, but wearing it openly will invite extreme attention. The city is now on alert, at least locally, and patrols will be thicker for a while. Somewhere above, Vivec City continues its holiday bustle, blissfully unaware that a Khajiit in borrowed gold has just upset the peace. What shops, businesses, and hideaways Uncle Eevee is looking for a place. Uncle Eevee wants to read. Is there a bookshop nearby? Or some other shop that might have scrolls or books to read? Take a reading break. Ah, I didn't even have to call it out by name. ChatGPT knows its stuff. As Uncle Eevee slows his pace near the foreign quarter, The answer comes readily. Yes, he's in exactly the right place for a reading break. Just ahead in the Foreign Quarter Plaza stands Joe Bosch's Rare Books, one of the finest bookshelves in all of our one of the finest bookshops in all of Varnfell. Joe Basha, a well-spoken Khajiit bookseller, keeps shelves packed with histories of the Empire, Dunmeri lore, poetry, religious texts, and the occasional strange or valuable tomie. It's a quiet, contemplative place, perfect for resting weary legs, flipping pages, and pretending you are not wearing suspiciously fresh ornater armor. If Uncle Eevee is more interested in scrolls or magical reading, a few options are nearby as well. Various mages and enchanters within Vivec, particularly around the Guild of Mages and certain temple affiliated vendors, sell spell scrolls, prayer texts, and mystical treatises, though they tend to be less cozy than Jabash's shop and more judgmental about stolen armor. So Jabash's rare books, magical vendors, or perhaps somewhere quieter. Uh, Uncle Eevee visits Joe Basha's rare books. Time for another image generation as well. Joe Basha's rare books, Foreign Quarter. Just off the busy plaza of the Foreign Quarter Canton, tucked between curio stalls and the hum of stilt striders overhead, stands Joe Basha's rare books. The shop is warm and dim, smelling of ink, dust, and old vellum. Tall wooden shelves lead slightly inward, packed tight with tomies from every corner of Tamriel. Candles flicker between stacks, their wax dripped thick like frozen time. Behind the counter sits Joe Basha, a well-fed Khajiit with a perpetual grin and half-lidded eyes, his tail flicking lazily as he reads. Holiday ribbons have been strung across a few shelves, and a small paper lantern shaped like Master hangs from a beam. Festive but understated. Joe Basha looks up as Uncle Eevee enters, ears twitching in recognition of a fellow Khajiit. Ah, this one smells of sea salt and ambition, Joe Basha purrs. Books are warmer than armor, yes, and they do not try to arrest you. On offer are skill books, cheap paperbacks, ancient Dunmeri texts, and a rotating stock of scrolls, from basic spells to rare curiosities. A few titles catch your eye immediately. The Pilgrim's Path, a reflective read on the Tribunal and Faith, Mystery of Tolera, Volume 1, a dramatic escapist tale, 36 Lessons of Vivec, cryptic, dangerous to read seriously, several low-cost scrolls on Ducey's Unhinging, Almzevi Intervention, and minor destruction spells. Joe Basha gestures generally at a low cushion near the back shelves. Sit, read. Gold only matters if you wish to keep the book. Uncle Eevee is safe here for now. What would you like to do? Please generate an image of Uncle Eevee in wearing the Ordinator armor in Joe Basha's bookshop. So the image is going to start generating, and in the meantime, Uncle Eevee challenges Joe Basha to a game. If Uncle Eevee wins, Joe Basha has to give him 3 books for free. If he loses, Uncle Eevee receives a 3-day ban. 3 days 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 ban Uncle Eevee has to read a whole book to Jobasha before leaving. I'm testing the limits of the engine here. Jobasha peers over the rims of his spectacles as Uncle Eevee, still conspicuously clad in golden ordinator armor that absolutely does not belong in a bookstore, issues his challenge. The elderly Khajiit's ears twitch with interest rather than alarm. Ah, a game. Yes, this one likes games. But Jobasha insists. It must be a game of words, wits, or luck. No stabbing, no stunning, and definitely no praying to Daedra mid-round. He gestures for Uncle Eevee to sit at a low table stacked with books, dice, and odd little carved guarbone tokens. A few curious Dunmer glance over, whispering. Ordinators, mercifully, are nowhere in sight. Jobasha proposes riddle dice, a local pastime. Each player rolls a small set of dice etched with symbols. The roll determines a riddle category. History, magic, religion, or things that should not be. And the opponent must answer a riddle spoken aloud. Best of 3 wins. Jobasha smiles, already confident. If Uncle wins, 3 books of Uncle's choosing, yes. If Uncle loses, Jobasha will listen to a full reading. This one has not heard a good story aloud in many years. He leans back, tail curling contentedly. Shall Jobasha roll first, or will Uncle Eevee test his luck? Uncle Eevee lets Jobasha play first. Jobasha's golden eyes blink slowly as he regards the towering, very illegal ordinator armor now looming between his shelves. A thin, amused hiss slips from his throat. Jobasha does not often wager with walking violations of temple law, he says mildly, but the holidays make the heart flexible. From beneath the counter, he produces a small felt cloth and a pair of bone dice etched with halalu numerals. A simple game, then. First cast sets the mark. Second may try to beat it. Jobasha rolls first. The dice clatter softly against the counter, coming to rest as a respectable but not unbeatable sum. He folds his hands serenely, tail swaying. A comfortable number. Jobasha feels optimistic. A few nearby patrons pretend very hard not to watch. One Dunmer scholar quietly places a bookmark and leans just a little closer. Uncle Eevee rolls his dice after silently meditating a short prayer to Azora. We're going to keep the Azora theme going for a little while, I think. She helped us once before. Jobasha's eyes gleam behind the counter as he accepts the challenge, his long ears twitching with interest. Ah, a game, yes, Jobasha enjoys games, especially ones involving chance and literacy. He produces a small, well-worn dice cup from beneath the counter, clearly not its first outing, and rolls first. The bones clatter across the polished wood, coming up respectable, but not extraordinary. Jobasha gives a theatrical sigh, tail swishing. Adequate. The dice are in a philosophical mood today. When Uncle Eevee rolls, he pauses, ordinator armor creaking softly among the stacks, murmuring a brief, silent prayer to Azora. The dice tumble, strike the edge of a book, and settle decisively. Jobasha blinks, then laughs, a delighted, booming Khajiit chuckle. Ah, Azora favors you, Walker. Very well. Jobasha honors his word. He selects 3 books with care. A slim volume of holiday poetry from the Ashlands, a minor spell tome concerning restoration and ritual magic, and an obscure Dunmeri folktale involving moons, cats, and poor life choices. Read them well, return them someday, or do not. Knowledge is never truly lost. Uncle Eevee remains unwelcome to the Ordinators for obvious reasons, but for the moment all is calm within Jobash's rare books. Uncle Eevee decides to read to Jobasha anyway, since we're all in a cheery holiday mood, and selects the book of Ashland's holiday poetry. They aired out that last. Uh, all right. Before I read this entry, I need to redo that last request for an image because it aired out that last one. Please generate an image. I do want that image of Uncle Eevee in the bookshelf. Meanwhile, Jobash's tall ears twitch with amusement as Uncle Eevee makes his choice. The bookseller clasps his hands together, delighted. Ah, generosity without obligation. This one approves. He puts a small brass brazier closer, filling the corner of the shop with warm resin-scented smoke, and settles onto a cushion across from you. Outside, the foreign quarter hums with the distant echo of ordinator boots and the wind whistling between cantons, but here among the shelves it feels almost timeless. You open Ashland's holiday poetry, its pages crackling softly. The verses are strange and earnest. Odes to scarlet dawns over ash storms, to guar bells tied with ribbon, to quiet gratitude offered to the three, and to Azura beneath winter stars. Your Khajiit voice lends the words a gentle rhythm, and even the more severe Dunmeri lines soften in the telling. Jobasha listens intently, eyes half lidded, occasionally murmuring approval or chuckling at a particularly grim metaphor dressed up as seasonal cheer. When you finish, Jobasha bows his head deeply. A gift freely given is the finest kind, he says. For this spirit, please, choose one book to keep, not as a wager, as a holiday kindness. He gestures to the nearby shelves, already scanning them with a practiced eye, clearly eager to recommend something suitably rare, strange, or dangerous. Which books are on that shelf? He's telling me to pick another book, so... Uncle Eevee's whiskers twitch as he studies the shelf nearest Jobasha's reading nook. The labels are handwritten in careful, loving script, and the collection looks like something the bookseller has curated personally rather than for sale to the masses. On this particular shelf, you spot the following volumes: Ashland Hymns and Hearth Songs, The Words of Clan Mother Anisi, The True Nature of the Ashlands, Varieties of Faith in the Empire, Invocation of Azora, The Anticipations, A Hypothetical Treachery, Mysticism in You, Notes on Dwemer Animunculi, Volume 1, Reflections on Frost and Flame, A Child's Tales of Red Mountain. Good shelf, yes. These books are like warstew, best when savored slowly. May Uncle Eevee keep A Child's Tale of Red Mountain. Since Jobasha said I could keep one book. I'm trying to stall the bookshelf scene until we get our image. Jabasha peers over the realm of his spectacles, his wide grin never quite fading as Uncle Eevee gestures toward the shelf in question. It is a low, well-kept shelf near the reading alcove labeled in careful script for young minds and gentle evenings. Upon it rest several familiar volumes. A Child's Tales of Red Mountain, Tribunal Era Myths, Volcano Spirits, Moral Fables meant to frighten children only a little. The Snow of Solstheim, which is a Nord Dunmer folktale collection. The Gwar Who Learned Patience, an Ashlander parable, and Hearth Songs of Varnfell. Um, when Uncle Eevee asks about A Child's Tales of Red Mountain, Jobasha lets out a thoughtful, He glances at the ordinator armor, then at the Khajiit's relaxed posture, and finally the book itself. This one sees you have already paid, Jobasha said, kindly tapping the spine. Paid in time, voice, and spirit. Stories are meant to travel. He slides the book across the counter with a soft thump. Yes, Uncle Eevee may keep A Child's Tales of Red Mountain. Jobasha even tucks a small paper bookmark inside, decorated with a hand-drawn moon and star, an old Morrowind holiday custom. Uncle Eevee leaves the shop lighter of coin than he once hoped, but richer in story, warmth, and a book that smells faintly of ash and candle wax. What would we like to do next? Alright, it's trying again. Shit, we just lost the last few interactions. Shoot. Alright. I'm gonna try and replay the last few actions. I accidentally broke things. Alright, they changed the books on the shelf. I'm trying to recover the last few interactions since we broke things. Egg of Time, Katana the... Alright, so he lets me keep the book. Let's just stand by for a minute and see what happens with our image. While it's doing that, Uncle Eevee thanks Jobasha and decides it is Time to continue adventuring. He exits the foreign quarter from the sewer level and starts swimming towards Vivek's palace. Alright, we're going for another swim. But this time we're going for a shorter swim. Jabasha smiles indulgently, his whiskers twitching as he waves a paw. This one believes stories should travel, he says, allowing Uncle Eevee to keep A Child's Tales of Red Mountain as a small holiday kindness. The book is tucked away safely, its worn cover still warm from candlelight and shared laughter. Leaving the foreign quarter by the damp sewer passages, Uncle Eevee slips into the cold waters of Vivek's inner canals. The city looms above, cantons rising like stone mountains, lanterns glowing softly with seasonal banners fluttering in the sea breeze. Ahead, the palace canton dominates the horizon, distant and forbidding. The water is calm for now, though the swim will not be easy, and the ordinators will not be forgiving if spotted. As Uncle Eevee strokes forward through the dark water, bells echo faintly across the city. Uncle Eevee continues swimming towards the palace. Cold, brackish water closes around Uncle Eevee as he slips from the sewer outflow and strikes out into Vivek's inner sea. The great cantons loom behind him, their stone faces reflecting torchlight and holiday lanterns strung along balconies above. Ahead, Vivek's palace rises like a sacred mountain from the water, its golden surfaces catching the light of Master and Secunda. The Ordinator armor is heavy and awkward in the water, but Khajiit's stamina and steady rhythm keep him moving forward, each stroke a quiet act of determination and mild trespass. As he swims, the water grows calmer but deeper. Schools of small fish scatter at his approach, and somewhere below, something large shifts, sending a ripple across the surface. The distant hum of Vivek City fades, replaced by the steady splash of his own movement and the soft echo of his breath inside the helm. He feels tired but focused, buoyed by Azora's earlier favor and the small comfort of a children's book tucked safely away. The palace docks are closer now, their massive stone pylons breaking the waterline like the legs of a god. Reaching them will be possible, but not without effort and perhaps attention. Uncle Eevee continues to approach the palace. We're gonna try a new. We're I'm just gonna take phrases out and make it a simpler request. Please generate an image of Uncle Eevee in Jabasha's bookshelf. That's an integral part of the story, so it's one of our keynote parts of the story, so I want to have that picture. Shoot. We lost the whole adventure towards the palace. Uncle Eevee thanks Jobasha and exits the foreign quarter. We lost time again. Through the sewers. He starts swimming towards Vivek Palace. All right, let's try this again. Uncle Eevee approaches the palace door. Uncle Eevee exits the water at the palace and approaches the door. Alright, so we got back to the Palace Canton. We restored the missing part of our adventure there that we erased accidentally. The waters around Vivek's palace are cold and dark, stirred by slow ceremonial currents that seem almost intentional, as if the city itself breathes through the canals. Uncle Eevee pulls himself from the water onto pale stone slick with algae and holy runoff. The palace looms above, impossibly vast, its layered terraces rising like a mountain carved by gods rather than hands. Ordinators patrol the upper walkways in disciplined silence, their golden masks catching the ashen daylight. A few glance down at you. Whether they recognize their borrowed armor or simply see another pilgrim is unclear. The main door stands before you, monumental and severe, etched with symbols of tribunal authority and centuries of law. Incense smoke drifts from braziers near the entrance, mingling with the briny scent of the canal. A priest murmurs a quiet invocation nearby, while a pair of palace guards stand at attention, halberds crossed loosely but ready. Despite the season's quiet cheer elsewhere in Vivek, the palace feels solemn, expectant even. You feel the faint tug of Azora's presence at the edge of your thoughts, distant but attentive, like starlight behind clouds. As you approach, one of the guards shifts his stance slightly, acknowledging you without yet stopping you. The great doors remain closed for now. Uncle Eevee retreats back out of the guard's view, casts a stealth spell to make himself unseen, and casts an unlock spell on the great door and enters it before and enters the palace. Oh, it did make the picture. So here's Uncle Eevee and Jabash's books. It got some of the detailing of the Ordinator armor. This is a more generic picture, but and look, it even got the book exact. The Child's Tales of Red Mountain. That's the exact book we were talking about. And you can see Jabasha in the back there smiling. Yeah, this is a nice picture here. Okay. I like this picture. These pictures are good for telling the story. Hmm. Hugging the shadowed curve of the palace canton, Uncle Evie slips back from the Ordinator's line of sight. The hum of Vivec City settles into a distant echo as he whispers the syllables of a chameleon spell. The world blurs around him, his golden armor dulling and fading like moonlight on water. Another incantation follows, older, sharper, and the great palace door answers with a reluctant thrum, its locks yielding just enough. The door opens inward, and Uncle Evie pads inside before it can betray him. Within the palace of Vivec, the air is cool and heavy with incense. Vast stone corridors stretch ahead, their walls etched with sermons and holy geometries. Candles flicker in alcoves shaped like praying hands, and somewhere deeper inside a low chant reverberates. Priest or guards, it's hard to tell. The floor beneath his paws is smooth and polished, amplifying every careless step. Even unseen, he feels the weight of the tribunal's gaze pressing down like a held breath. As he advances, Uncle Evie senses subtle wards woven into the palace, nothing immediately hostile, but attentive, as though the building itself is aware of intruders. A side passage leads towards administrative chambers and records. Another slopes upward towards the inner sanctum and Vivec's living quarters. His chameleon spell holds for now. Uncle Evie continues toward Vivec's chamber. We're gonna go meet a living god now. I want to see. I want to go meet Vivek. And you know what? We're almost 2 hours into stream, so I think once we encounter Vivek, that would be a good place to call it for tonight. We had a nice little Morrowind holiday adventure here. I can see us playing Morrowind in ChatGPT some more, and other game worlds in ChatGPT as well. The immense interior of Vivec's palace swallows Uncle Evie in hushed reverence. The great door glides shut behind him with a stone on stone sigh as a stealth spell bends light and sound around his golden ordinator armor, rendering the once intimidating silhouette a moving absence. Incense smoke coils lazily beneath vaulted ceilings, and the echo of distant ordinator's boots drifts through the vast halls like a slow heartbeat. Tapestries depicting the warrior poet's trials hang heavy with age, their colors muted by torchlight, and holiday garlands woven discreetly between pillars, small offerings left by faithful citizens during the season. As Uncle Evie pads forward, the palace grows quieter, more sacred. Pilgrims' halls give way to inner sanctums, and the air itself seems to thrum with divine presence. His steps carry him past lesser shrines and silent monks lost in meditation, none the wiser to the unseen Khajiit slipping by. Ahead, the architecture shifts. Curving stone, impossible angles, and a sense that the space is no longer bound entirely by mortal rules. Vivek's influence presses gently at the edges of Uncle Evie's thoughts, not hostile, but curious. At last, the passage opens towards the approach to Vivek's own chamber, a place spoken of in whispers and sermons alike. The way forward is unobstructed for now, but the sense of being noticed grows stronger, like a gaze felt on the back of one's neck rather than seen. Whether it is Vivek himself, a watchful ordinator captain, or something stranger still is impossible to say. Uncle Evie enters Vivek's chamber. I want to see how this plays out. I think this is a good... This will be like the final encounter for our story today, I think. I think we need one more picture to commemorate this moment. But first, let's read. Wrapped in borrowed god metal and the hush of sorcery, Uncle Evie slips through the inner corridors of the palace. The great halls fall away behind him, replaced by silence broken only by the distant lap of water far below. Ordinators stand like statues at their posts, unmoving, either fooled by your magic or choosing wisely not to notice. Incense hangs thick in the air, sharp with ash and myrrh, and the walls are carved with lessons, riddles, and victories that read like half-remembered dreams. At last, the passage opens into Vivek's chamber. It is vast and intimate at once, a circular sanctum suspended over water, lit by an impossible glow that seems to come from nowhere and everywhere. Pillars carved with scripture rise like frozen flames. At the center, floating cross-legged above a shallow pool, is Vivek, warrior poet, god king, and living in contradiction. One half of his skin gleams gold, the other a deep ashen black. His many eyes open at once, and a faint smile touches his lips, as if he has been waiting for you since before you were born. Uncle Eevee, Vivek says gently, though his voice carries the weight of sermons and battlefields. You come armored in theft, blessed by Azora, and scented of books and seawater. It is the season of gifts, yes. Tell me, have you come to ask, to challenge, to confess, or simply to listen? The god's gaze settles on you, curious rather than hostile, and the water beneath him ripples in slow, patient circles. What does Uncle Eevee do next? Please generate an image of Uncle Eevee with Vivek in the palace. Oh, we'll just say Uncle Eevee with Vivek. It knows where we are in the story. Uncle Eevee reads the Red Mountain book to Vivek. We're spraying some more holiday cheer. We're reading that children's book to Vivek. He's probably heard it 100 times before, but we do what we can. The vast chamber of Vivek is hushed as Uncle Eevee's voice carries through it, soft but steady, reading from a child's tales of Red Mountain. The words, half fable, half ash-blown history, echo gently against stone and divine silence. Vivek himself listens, many-hued eyes half-lidded, a faint knowing smile touching his lips. The god's presence presses like deep water, yet the moment feels strangely intimate, even warm, as if the story itself is a small hearth fire against the cold weight of prophecy and power. When the final lines are read, Vivek inclines his head. Stories, he says at last, voice layered with more tones than should be possible, are bridges between what is and what might yet be. You honor both the child and the mountain by remembering. A pause follows. The air shimmers faintly, and Uncle Eevee feels a subtle blessing settle over him. Not pain, not ecstasy, but clarity, like ash washed from the eyes by rain. Vivek gestures idly, and the book is gently returned to Uncle Eevee's hands. Go now, little walker. Carry cheer where the world forgets it. Uncle Eevee finds himself once more at the edge of the palace corridors, unseen, unharmed, and very much alive. Ordinator armor warm against his fur, the city of Vivek sprawling below, lanterns glowing like constellations reflected on the water in this festive season of turning years. Uncle Eevee returns to the foreign quarter and takes the boat at the dock to Castle Evenheart. I want to do a small little epilogue where he's gonna wrap up his story just hanging out on the Ebenhart dock. And here's our nice little picture. Oh, it swapped out our Khajiit character that's been doing consistently. It's wearing the same armor, but swapped it out for the actual character Eevee from Pokemon, who the character is named after. And that's a pretty good rendition of Vivek. He does have the two-tone look, and he does sit in that pose in the actual game. His outfit is slightly different, but he does sit in that pose. He does have this split two-tone look, so that's a pretty good picture, I would say. The waters around Vivek's palace accept Uncle Eevee back without protest, the moonlight shimmering off his borrowed Ordinator armor as he slips away unseen. By the time he reaches the foreign quarter again, the canton hums softly with nightlife. Lanterns glow warm against the stone, and distant laughter drifts from taverns where holiday songs, half imperial, half done merry, mingle awkwardly but cheerfully. No alarms sound. Either Vivek was amused or merciful. At the docks, a small transport boat rocks gently against its moorings. The boatman, a bundled up imperial with a wool scarf and a mug of something steaming, barely looks up as Uncle Eevee boards. Castle Ebenheart, he says with a nod, pushing off. The city of Vivek recedes behind you, its cantons rising like stacked prayers, while the inner sea carries you westward through cold air and quiet stars. Castle Ebenheart soon looms ahead, imperial stonework stark and orderly compared to Vivek's divine geometry. Banners hang stiff in the night breeze, and lights burn steadily within the fortress walls. As the boat bumps gently against the dock, the boatman offers a thin smile. Welcome to Ebenheart. Watch yourself, holiday or not. The Duke's guards don't share much cheer. Uncle Eevee steps onto the dock, boots echoing softly on the stone. The night is calm, the air crisp, and possibilities stretch out before him. Uncle Eevee casts a spell on the big dragon statue at the dock. Causing it to animate with festive cheer and sparkle in many colors. What? So we're going to make this dragon statue sparkle in many colors. Uncle Eevee sings a song with the dragon. Before entering the inn, getting a room, entering the inn, requesting a room for the night, and going to sleep to end today's adventure. Let's see how it describes this. And we're going to ask for one more picture. Please generate an image of the magical dragon statue. The spell blooms across the great dragon statue like a holiday aurora. Its stone scales shimmer, then move With a grinding, surprisingly cheerful rumble, the dragon lifts its head and exhales harmless sparks of colored light that dance over the dock. Dock workers gasp, then laugh. One applauds. Uncle Eevee sings, a Khajiit traveling song about warm fires, full moons, and finding one's way home, and the animated dragon joins in with a basso harmony that vibrates the planks beneath your feet. When the song ends, the statue settles back into stillness, now dusted with softly glowing motes like festive lanterns. Inside the inn at Castle Evenheart, the warmth is immediate. Hearth fire, spiced sujama, and evergreen bows tied with red ribbon. The innkeeper blinks once at your ordinator armor, decides not to ask questions, and hands over a key with a smile. Season of goodwill, they say. Dream kindly. Upstairs, the room is simple but clean. You remove your armor, set A Child's Tales of Red Mountain carefully beside the bed, and feel the long day finally catch up to you. As sleep takes you, you dream of water and ash, of a two-toned god listening patiently, of a dragon that remembers how to sing. Somewhere far away, Azure's star glints. Approval, amusement, or both. Uncle Eevee rests. This is the end of today's adventure. We're just waiting for this last image to generate, and while it does that, let's see who we're going to raid. There's a few options tonight. Actually, there isn't a few options right now.
So you generated images with each prompt?
I'm still on stream, Glenn.
I know, I'm asking you a question.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Alright, so that's a cool looking dragon. Alright. I think we had a good Morrowind story today. A good Morrowind holiday story. You couldn't pull off a story like this in the actual game. You need like heavy mods to get the whole holiday spirit thing going. But we had a few we had a few good keynotes. We visited Joe Basho, we visited Vivek, and now we're ready 2 hours in to call it a night. Is he alive or is he doing his loop? Right now, I'm trying to see. There's not a lot of musicians on right now. I'm trying. There were like a ton of musicians on earlier this evening, but I was streaming, and so no, he's not in right now. Okay. Let's see. We are going to. Who did I raid less sooner? Dresdy is usually a good music show, but she's doing a computer game tonight. Actually, she's been doing that computer game for like 2 weeks. I haven't seen her come on with music recently at all. Okay, I don't even remember who this is. We are going to attempt to raid Christy Cates. So yeah, today was a fun holiday story set in the world of Morrowind. The raid has been Christy Cates has raids turned off. Looks like my screen is doing the screenception thing that it does when we have the Twitch window up, the infinite screens. Well, John Lee's not on, and Christy Cates is blocking raids right now, so the only other musician I have on right now is Sally Wallach, and I don't even remember who that is, so still probably a good musician. I do need to go through my follow list. There's some people who are no longer active on it, so I do need to clean up names I don't recognize and whatever. But let's... Alright, we're rating Sally Wallach's music show, because that's the only option we have tonight. This was a fun ChatGPT text adventure in Morrowind. This was fun. It was catching all the references. I really enjoyed that. I will definitely be doing more Morrowind and Tamrielic adventures in ChatGPT in the future. And I'll probably look at other game adventures. We'll do other adventures in ChatGPT text adventures as well. That was a really fun engine. As long as you set it up correctly. Before I go, let's just take a quick look at all our images again. So there's the Satanine Census and Excise Office. There he is at Ariel's trade house with his first set of armor. There he's on his swim. He's resting in his cave counting gold. Now he's in Jobash's bookshop with the Ordinator armor. Here's the switch to Eevee character with Vivek. And finally, the dragon statue. So now let's raid out. Have a good night, and I will see you soon.
As soon as I walk away.
What the heck?